Okay, so I was getting close to the end, but worried I would run out of time. So I'm going to back up a little bit and talk again about that activation of the T cells. And once they're activated, that they undergo this proliferation and differentiation. So you want to think about this as an attack, basically on the body, and that when we get this recognition at that T cell activation, right? So whether it's the cytotoxic T cell or the CD4 T helper cell, if they actually get activated because they have recognized a given antigen, they do not want to try to fight this by themselves. And so the next thing that happens when they become activated is they want to make an army, right? Both the CD4 and the CD8 cells want to make sure that they have an army to help them out. And so they go through this proliferation. And then they also, as they're making clones of this original parent cell that has the receptor specific to the antigen, they also want to differentiate, meaning that they'll have a bunch of different types of helper T cells, and they'll do a memory cell, right? And then the cytotoxic T cells, they'll also do the memory cell, and then various subclasses of cytotoxic T cell. But they're basically building up an army that will specifically kill this particular antigen. And so with that stage 3, you need to remember that the clones will all recognize that original antigen that activated the original parent cell. And as these antigen presenting cells and helper T cells interact, those antigen presenting cells, remember, will get all of the rest of this, right? All of this activated, which means not only are they building up an army, but they're telling everybody else, hey, we've got an intruder, and they're sounding the alarm by sending off cytokines, these chemical signals, to get everybody to help out. I talked about then, though, that then we go to stage 4, and stage 4 is where we get elimination of the antigen and for memory cells. So in order for these T cells to eliminate the antigens, we generally are thinking about cytotoxic T cells. That's because the helper T cells are really just giving orders. They're not actually affecting or acting directly on cells that are infected. But the T cells that are cytotoxic T cells are the ones that can actually get rid of cells that have either been infected with a virus or with something that's cancerous. And so if I'm a cell that was infected by a virus, or I know I'm going through uncontrolled division and I'm cancerous, what I want to do is I send off interferons. Remember, these are chemical signals that I can release from me. And basically I'm doing it as preservation for the body. So I basically say, hey, something's wrong with me. I need to be taken care of. This will recruit these activated these cytotoxic T cells to the area. It will enhance the production of my MHC1 so that I can present antigens to the cytotoxic T cell. And it will also get the immune system, it will set off an alarm to put it in high alert. When that T cell receptor of the cytotoxic T cell does the handshake with our MHC1 and recognizes the antigen, it then plans on destroying the cell, whether it's cancerous or virus infected. It knows that its job is to destroy the host cell. And so it will release these chemicals called perforins that basically put holes into the target cell. And it releases these granzymes. These are enzymes that will actually enter through those holes and will break down the host cell proteins. This will cause the cell to go through apoptosis or cell death. And this is just a drawing of it, right? We have our cytotoxic T cell that has been brought in because it's been, the interferons have drawn it here. This particular cancer-infected cell has recognized something's wrong with it. It sent out the interferons to bring in the cytotoxic T cell. And it puts the antigen on an MHC1. The MHC1 and CD8 interact to do a handshake. There's recognition of the antigen. And that's when the cytotoxic T cell becomes activated. It will form these pores by sending off perforin to put holes in. And then it sends these enzymes that can get in and start to break down the cell. The cell goes through apoptosis and dies. And that's how it affects it, gets rid of that particular antigen. So the helper T cells also have a role, though, in this antigen elimination, even though they don't specifically attack invaders or cancer cells or infected host cells. They do all the support by delegating the job. They activate B cells, they activate cytotoxic T cells, and they activate our innate immunity leukocytes. So they activate all those macrophages and natural killer cells to also take part in getting rid of this antigen. And then lastly, they do memory cells. So I didn't put that on a slide, but remember these cytotoxic T cells and helper T cells will put aside memory cells. So if that particular infection comes back, we're ready for it. So for your checking in, you should know the role of an antigen presenting cell. What is its job? You should know which major histocompatibility complex do helper T cells recognize and which ones do cytotoxic T cells recognize. And then what is the function of an activated helper T cell and the function of an activated cytotoxic T cell. So that's the end of 12.2. The next lecture will really be going into the B cell response. Okay, so this was the cellular response under adaptive immunity. Next, we'll do the humoral response, which is the B cells. Let me know if you have any questions.